The story continues as we see that Argentum Corps is having a meeting. Starlia asks Christopher and Shin to report the situation. They explain that the dragons are behaving strangely. There is no activity until this morning, and the dragons don't seem to be out for blood. Christopher tells that even after they got very close to their hideout, there was no indication that the dragons would immediately attack if a signal was given. The twins also report that they felt the same thing, and it seems like dragons are preoccupied with something, as the air felt like there was a funeral. Starlia wonders what is wrong with the superior dragons. She thinks that they're somewhere else and thinks about Crimson's statement, but she feels that there's no definite proof that Crimson was telling the truth. Starlia then tells everyone that she is not sure why they're acting this way, but this is a good opportunity. Isaac asks what she means by it. Starlia then explains that the dragons certainly do not want to let them off the hook. If that were the case, they would have raised their siege. She explains that some issue must have cropped up for the superior dragons that temporarily takes priority over them. She tells that it is utterly insulting, but she explains that it's an insult to be thankful for. She asks Majorca, how much longer will the teleportation circle take to prepare? She tells her it'll take 2 days if they work themselves to death. Starlia then tells her to ask Few to get it done in 1 day without anyone dying. Meanwhile, Majorca is getting pleasure from Starlia being too close. Starlia then tells them that their country has already lost. She explains that on the first night, 5 cities in the capital fell. They cannot fathom just how many citizens have been devoured by dragons. The only thing they can do is flee the country with only the 1,500 citizens they've gathered in their base. She tells that it is entirely disgraceful, but they shall escape. Starlia tells that they'll show those loathsome dragons they can't always have their way with them, and they will survive with everyone. But Crimson interrupts her, saying that was fantastic, and she expected nothing less from the renowned silverware princess. Shin asks Ragna and Crimson who they are. Isaac tells them to calm down. Starlia feels shy but acts strong and tells them that she was going to pretend she never saw them for a while, but they decided to make an appearance. Filth. Both Shin and Christopher ask Ragna what he did to the commander. Isaac tells them to calm down as they have already discussed it. Shin says that Ragna doesn't look strong at all. Greya asks Hesela if she thinks one of those two might be him. Hesela tells her that definitely, it must be one of them. Ragna thinks that this is an incredibly skilled group. There are even people who are stronger than Leo here. Isaac asks what happened to the guards. Crimson then tells that he asked them to let them through, and they very kindly obliged. Isaac doesn't believe it. Crimson ignores him and tells Starlia that they'd like to lend them a hand in their escape plan. He tells them that he got the gist of their plan. Crimson explains that they want to use dragon's blood as a magical energy source and teleport out of the country. Crimson tells that it's a solid plan, but it won't be successful. He explains to them that the difference in military power between them and their enemy is too great. Crimson tells Starlia that if she allows them to work together with her, she will give them detailed intel about the enemy. Not only that, she can provide them with a superweapon capable of slaying superior dragons unassisted and introduces Ragna. Crimson tells Starlia that they must cooperate to take down the 2 superior dragons who are their enemy. If they don't, they'll all die here together. While Crimson is saying all this, Starlia is happy to know Ragna's name. Everyone waits for her reply, and soon they quarrel among each other. Isaac worries about Starlia as she is losing her mind again. Suddenly, the maid hits Starlia and knocks her to the table. Starlia is mad at Crimson for offering help, calling him a nasty stain on the world. She knows he's the type to use and get people killed. Shin tells her this isn't her usual way of doing things, asking if they should just kill Crimson or not. Ragna steps in, saying it's his job to deal with Crimson. Starlia, still upset, tells Crimson they won't work with him and orders him back to his cell. She warns she'll kill him if she sees his face again. She even tells Ragna to go back to their cell, threatening him too. Crimson then explains about Mad Dragon, Ulto Zora, the 6th seat of the Blood of the Wing. He handles military matters and has a unique power called chemical synthesis, allowing him to create deadly drugs and compounds. His chemicals are ineffective in sunlight, and Silverine can stop them. Knowing this information is crucial for combating him. When he uses these chemicals on his forces, it becomes a nuisance, enhancing his dragon army's power and giving him control over hypnotized dragons due to his status as a superior dragon. Isaac questions where Crimson got such detailed intel on superior dragons. Then, Starlia asks for a guarantee of the information's truth. Crimson says they'd know if he lied, but Starlia remains suspicious of him. Crimson then brings Ragna forward. Ragna is asked to persuade the silverware princess, but he thinks it's impossible. Crimson believes that Ragna, even if talking nonsense, could win her favor. He asks Ragna if he has made up his mind or not to stay here and fight. We are then taken aback where Crimson tells Ragna that he estimates that the number of dragons attacking this base will be at least 10,000. Out of that, 9,000 are inferior dragons, 1,000 are medial dragons, and about 40 to 50 will be mature dragons. They also have a mobile front to transport them, the Writhing Shade. There's a high probability the 13th seat has been mobilized too. Also, 2 superior dragons will lead them, Ulto Zora and Terictra. Their military force will be total overkill. There are 350 soldiers here, as well as 1,500 civilians under their protection, and none will survive. He asks Ragna whether the Silverware Princess and her comrades in the future. Crimson tells Ragna that if he promises to follow his orders and give up on Ultimacia for a short while so they can escape the country, he'll use the full extent of his powers to make sure the humans at this base escape the dragons. And when he says the full extent of his powers, that includes him. Crimson asks him once again whether he is going to break it off with him and go back to the capital by himself or stay and fight to protect the people here, then flee the country together. Back to the present, Ragna asks Starlia if they could work together. Starlia was surprised and said she won't work with Ragna just because he looks good. That doesn't mean she will listen to him. Ragna reminded Starlia that she had called Crimson filth before. He agreed with her and said Crimson enjoys hurting others, and he's a despicable person who loves tormenting others for kicks. Ragna even called Crimson a piece of shit, which gets Starlia excited. Ragna wondered why someone like Crimson even exists, and said he often thinks everyone would be better off if he could just get rid of him. But Ragna trusts Crimson's desire to kill dragons, so they decided to team up to exterminate dragons. Starlia asked if they were going to kill all dragons, and Ragna said he's really good at hunting dragons and wants to help. Everyone was curious about Starlia's expression. The maid explained that Starlia is in love with Ragna, and she's struggling with the idea of using him. Majorca warned Starlia not to agree because Ragna is undoubtedly a pervert who puts up pictures of his crush in his room. She knows this because she can always sniff out other freaks like her. The maid explained that Ragna is Starlia's first love. She doesn't know how to react around him, and she can't allow herself to look like a pathetic simp in front of the core. Starlia reluctantly agreed to work with Ragna, but she made it clear she is temporarily borrowing his power for strategic purposes, not because she has feelings for him. Crimson made a joke about Starlia acting like a tsundere. Starlia got mad at Crimson, but he found it funny. Crimson tells Ragna that she is not a fan of being called a piece of shit, but she says that she will let it slide since the Silverware Princess had her in stitches. But Ragna tells Crimson that he asked him to do it. Isaac wasn't sure if the situation was good or bad. Christopher asked if Starlia was serious about the plan, and Starlia says she is. Shin then asks about his fight with Ragna, and Starlia says that he has to wait. Crimson praised the decision and suggested modifying the plan based on his information. Starlia interrupted and told Crimson to share information only about dragons. She insisted on doing the planning. Crimson agreed but asked Starlia to make sure her plan had no mistakes because fixing them later would be a hassle. Starlia then asked Crimson about changes in dragon behavior, and Crimson explained they had fought the winged monarch in the capital. Everyone was surprised, and Crimson said the dragons might be heading to the capital in a frenzy. In the capital, Zora expresses his anger by knocking Borgias. Borgias admits he has no excuses. Terictra asks about Ultimacia's whereabouts, and he tells them she's in her room crying. Kamui arrives and informs Ultimacia that she has lost her power to control time, as he had mentioned before. Ultimacia questions why he's there when she specifically told Nebulum not to let anyone enter. Kamui responds that Nebulum allowed him in. Ultimacia accuses Kamui of lying and threatens Nebulum, accusing him of letting Kamui in forcibly. She asks Kamui to leave, as she is not in the mood to chat. Kamui interrupts, claiming he has a souvenir for her, and Ultimacia questions whose head it is. Kamui reminds her of the task she sent him for. Ultimacia accuses Kamui of lying, threatens Nebulum again, and insists he leaves. Kamui, undeterred, says he has a souvenir for her, and Ultimacia questions whose head it is. Kamui responds by asking if she forgot the purpose of his mission. Ultimacia asks if the head is from the person who killed Toi, and Kamui questions if she thinks a lowly hunter could have killed Toi. He describes the hunter as weak but dedicated, a true dragon hunter. Ultimacia refuses to hear the dying words of someone who suffered. Kamui asserts that to him, almost everyone in the world is insignificant trash, but he'll keep the dying words between him and the hunter if Ultimacia isn't interested. Changing the topic, Kamui mentions a sword he obtained from a dragon hunter. Ultimacia has a vision of facing Ragna. Kamui describes the sword's crude craftsmanship, but chilling silvering and fusion. Ultimacia pleads for him to take it away. Kamui insists she not be shaken by it. Ultimacia, feeling the sword, realizes it's cold. Kamui asks if she wants him to explain why she can't control time anymore. He attributes it to her losing in her heart, not some divine disappointment. He explains that her heart is too beaten down to rule over anything. Ultimacia wonders if this means she has a mental problem, and Kamui asks if she sees her enemy's image every time she uses magic. She confirms and shares an incident where her enemy moved even when time was stopped. Kamui mocks her as Traumacia and suggests forgetting her fear to regain control over time. Ultimacia struggles, and Kamui proposes commanding him to obliterate the source of her fear. Ultimacia refuses, stating it's her personal failure, and her priority is to annihilate the country as the winged progenitor. Volta Kamui asks Ultimacia to tell him what she really wants and desires. He wonders if she wants revenge. Ultimacia is confused, so Volta Kamui shares his feelings, expressing anger that someone tried to harm her while he was away. Ultimacia attacks and questions when she became his woman. She asks how long he'll keep clowning around and making a fool of her. If he doesn't intend to listen, he should go ahead and fight. Volta Kamui says he wants to fight because she ordered him to. He won't bow to her as the progenitor or worship her like a saint. To him, she's just an unhinged woman, and he follows her willingly without caring about God, allegiance, or blood ties. He assures her that she can be herself around him, expressing emotions like anger or sadness. He promises to always be by her side. Ultimacia insists she can't allow that for herself, as she has a duty to God, her bloodline, and the people they've killed. Volta Kamui says he doesn't doubt her true feelings, but clarifies that's not what he's asking. Ultimacia then blames Ragna for everything, expressing frustration and a desire for revenge. She orders Volta Kamui to kill them and bring their heads. Volta Kamui agrees, saying her wish is his command. They meet Zora, who apologizes for not being there when Ultimacia needed him. Ultimacia apologizes for making them worry and assures them she's okay. She asks Nebulum if Volta Kamui threatened him to enter her chamber, and Volta Kamui says Nebulum was cool with it. Nebulum confirms this and thinks about getting closer to Ultimacia's heart like Volta Kamui. Volta Kamui recalls killing Michael, and his last words about the Reaper hunting him. He expresses excitement about facing an unseen opponent for a historic fight to the death. This brings an end to our episode.